What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Norcal Sports Report, episode 19. We're one away from the Big 20, and we got a banger of a show today. Today, I'll be joined by Tom Jensen, writer for SI, covers the Niners for SI, and we will be covering all the latest news surrounding the San Francisco 49ers as it is NFL Combine Week in the NFL. A lot of things going on. John Lynch taking the podium right now, so we'll be bringing you updates as they come available. Should be a lot of fun. Later in the show, we're going to be talking about the Golden State Warriors and how the acquisition of Jimmy Buckets has completely changed the look of the Golden State Warriors and have made them what I believe is a championship contender. The San Francisco Giants have started their spring training games, but the Giants franchise is too cheap to stream them. Why is that? We'll talk about all that and more today on the Norcal Sports Report here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Norcal Sports Report, episode 19 here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Today we have a really good banger of a show. We got Tom Jensen of SI here joining us today to talk about the San Francisco 49ers. Some recent trade rumors surrounding Brandon Aiyuk. The NFL Combine is up and running. John Lynch is on the podium right now, and we'll bring you updates as they become available. We'll be talking later in the show about Golden State Warriors, San Francisco Giants, Sacramento Kings, and more, of course, like we always do. But before we get to all of that, make sure that you follow IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all of those at IE Sports Radio. Check out IESportsRadio.com for a full catalog of all the shows we have to offer here on IE Sports Radio. Check out IESportsRadio.com/shop where you can pick up merchandise of banners, shirts, hats, all that crap. All stuff that will help promote IE Sports Radio and help support the network. You can also find IE Sports Radio wherever you find your podcast, may it be Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, CastBox, wherever you find your podcasts, you will find IE Sports Radio, and you'll definitely find the Norcal Sports Report. You can also find it over at DreArea Sports on Spotify as well, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast, you'll find my podcast, my personal one, and these episodes will be on there as well. And on top of that, make sure that you check out Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. They're one of the sponsors of the show. This jerky's on a whole other planet. You can order at planetjerky.net or follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. We're also brought to you by Vital Apparel. Vital Apparel is partnered with IE Sports Radio, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use promo code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to promote and support mental health research. We're also brought to you by Seal the Deal Wax Seals. You can place an order for these brilliant wax seals at SealTheDeal_wax seals. That's actually their Instagram account, but you can place an order for it at IESportsRadio.com/SealTheDeal wax seals. And we're also brought to you by Raw Nutrition. Use promo code IESR to get 10% when you go to GetRawNutrition.com and place an order for our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. I'm loving Raw Nutrition. Really good stuff. It gets me going every single day. You can also follow me at Norcal Sports IE. That's the official IE Sports Radio Twitter handle for this show. And you can follow me personally over at DreArea Sports on X, Instagram, and on YouTube as well at DreArea Sports. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to support the show again, check out this link down below. This is the Supporters Club over at Spreaker.com. And go to this link and you can help support my show and the network all at once. It's a really cool link. Definitely check that out. And with that being said, guys, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have Tom Jensen of SI talking about the San Francisco 49ers, talking about recent trade rumors, and talking about the NFL Combine. It's going to be a lot of fun, you guys. You don't want to miss out on this. Guys, you're listening to Norcal Sports Report, episode 19 on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iSportsRadio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Minutes past the hour here on the Norcal Sports Report on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And today I am joined by my good friend, Mr. Tom Jensen of SI, who covers the Niners for SI. Tom, what's going on?
How's it going, Dre? Interesting time with the combine going on.
I know. And you know what? We talked about this last night, but there really is no live stream of John Lynch's press conference. I even saw right. Jose Sanchez saying, "This is garbage. How come we can't watch it live?" I don't know, but here's a good thing,
though.
That's on
the Niners. They should take care of that.
They should. I mean, if you want your fans to be fully immersed in whatever you're doing, you think, hey, let's make sure we stream that to all the fans. You know, let's get everyone involved. Right. But it is what it is. But first of all, Tom, I hope you're having a great week.
Doing okay. How about you?
Doing okay. I'm doing great. I'm doing better now because usually I go into a lull and then I do my show and then I feel a lot better, going into the rest of the week. So this is like my highlight of the week. So I'm really happy about that. I'm hoping to go live again later this week too, either Thursday or Friday. But speaking of John Lynch, we know that he's on the podium right now talking to the media, and we do have some updates that I wanted to share with you from John Lynch's press conference at the NFL Combine. The first one is here. He writes, can you even see that? Jeez, let me zoom in a little bit on that. There we go. He writes here, John Lynch is on Trent Williams' future. He says Trent is playing, Trent is ready, he's motivated. Very short, but okay, which means that obviously he's going to be there next season, which we kind of already assumed, but it's good to hear it from John Lynch himself. He also mentioned this, that John Lynch says that the organization has started contract extension conversations with Brock Purdy and his representatives. That's courtesy of Matt Barrows. Again, something that we had heard about earlier this week. Now, we talked about this last time you were on the show. This could be a case where they want to get this done early, similar to what we talked about with Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously, we've gone past the Jimmy G, time scale. But do you think this will get done sooner rather than later? Oh, he's frozen. So when he comes back, he'll answer that. But personally, I think that they're going to get this done early. I think they want to get it done before March 12th because the start of the new football season, NFL season, is March 13th. And that's when you can start negotiating with your free agents. Oh, Tom, there you are. You're back.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Brock Purdy's contract? Do you think it gets done sooner or later?
I think that they need to wait. Grant reported on this from Indy this morning that the word at the combine is they want to wait to see what the market is going to set at. So they want to see what happens with Sam Darnold, what happens with Matthew Stafford, where their money comes in, then calibrates what they can offer to Brock. They want the market to set first, then make an offer. In terms of you need to get it done before free agency begins, not really, because you can project what he's going to be. And most of the conversation.
So Tom just cut out right now. He's a little frozen up, but and I get what Tom is saying as well, that you want to wait and see how the market shakes out. But to me, I kind of feel like you want to get ahead of that, because what if Sam Darnold all of a sudden garners this big contract that I don't think he fully deserves, but of course it's not really what he deserves. It's what the market dictates. But for me, I would say, hey, look, we know that his contract's going to be somewhere around 50 to 55 million, starting there most likely. And so even if Sam Darnold got a contract around 40 to 45 million, I don't think that's really comparable to what Brock Purdy has done. And Tom, you were saying.
Well, with Darnold, that would be the floor. And with Stafford, it would be, that's about where you want to be. Is you could make the argument that Brock being younger is more valuable in the marketplace than Stafford, but that sets a point where you would say that give or take $5 million, what Stafford gets is what Brock should get.
Right. And at the same time, Stafford, he's at the end of his career. He probably has 1 or 2 years left. He even contemplated on retiring at the end of this past season, even though, honestly, I feel like the only reason why the Rams were relevant and even in the playoffs was because of Matthew Stafford.
Right.
He really carried that team. Especially,
that and their defensive line is the,
and Jared Verse and all those guys.
Right.
Those guys really came together. But having a competent, capable quarterback with that experience really helped them offensively as well. We also got this out of, what is this? We also got this from John Lynch as well. That's another short snippet that CMC is doing great, doing really well, and is expected to be ready for at least parts of the offseason program. We've also heard comments too that, obviously CMC from George Kittle, that we're going to be getting the best out of CMC because now he's angry and he wants to kind of redeem himself after having that really horrible year last year with injuries, coming back, not being his true self, and then getting hurt again. Do you think that CMC is due for a big rebound year going into the season?
I think he will be quite good initially, but then it's a question of how does he hold up? Mm-hmm. It's one thing to say, well, I'm fully healed, I'm fully recovered. Yeah, you haven't played. Once you start playing, then how well does your body respond to that? That's my concern going in, is that CMC can be great to start the year, and then he gets hurt, then what? So I'm worried about just what the contact's going to be. He's at an age and a mileage where injuries are going to hit, and there's nothing you can do about it. And the Niners need to be prepared for that. And given that this draft is loaded at running back, I would expect to see that they're going to make a pick in the second, third, fourth, somewhere in there to get one of the running backs in this draft.
Well, that's a question too, is that do you think that they're going to invest in the running back, which you said that they probably will, in the draft, or do you think that they try and bring back a Jordan Mason to be the number 2 running back behind Christian McCaffrey? Because we saw how durable he could be, obviously bearing injury, but for the first part of the season, he was one of the league's leading rushers. So do you think that's a guy that they should invest and try to bring back, or do you think they're going to move on from him?
I think they could end up doing both. They'll look at Mason as one of the cogs of the machine at running back and draft running back, because this running back class is so good. You look at somebody like Trevion Henderson, that's the ideal Kyle Shanahan back. It's exactly what he wants. And on top of that, he never fumbles. No lost fumbles in Columbus. He did fumble, but his team recovered it. So you look at a back like that and several other backs in this draft, I think that Kyle is not going to be able to help himself. And he's going to take one. Whether they keep Mason as well, I think they could. The key with Mason is, can they get something in trade for him? They would need to make a second round tender offer in order to then trade him, since he's an RFA, restricted free agent.
Right.
Then they could look to deal him, but I wouldn't put it past them to say that we're going to do both. We're going to keep Jordan Mason and we're going to draft a back.
Yeah, I mean, I would like for them to bring him back, but I could see another team looking at Jordan Mason saying, hey, you know what? This guy has the potential to be something really big. But is he a guy that you invest money into and say, hey, we're going to make you our number 1? I don't know if he is. I still think that if another team were to make him a contract offer and then the Niners didn't match it, I don't know if he's the guy that another team would say, okay, you're going to be our number 1 and we trust you. I feel like he's still a guy that would be a number 2 or would be a part-time 1 and 2, on a different team, because he has to show that he can last the entire season. The multiple injuries that he suffered this past season really hurt his value. Can you imagine if he never got hurt this season? Oh my gosh, he'd be gone. I'd be like, oh yeah, he's not going to come back. He's out. He's totally out. But
as restricted free agent, they keep his rights regardless.
Yeah,
he could not sign and they would still hold his rights. So it's a different deal because of that. But I agree with you.
And while Tom frees up, he unfreezes himself when that happens. So, but yeah, I think that, Jordan Mason, he knows the offense. They know how to use him in the offense. But then again, when McCaffrey's healthy, we only see him in very sparing moments.
In
very sparing moments. So but I think it still adds value to the team if they can retain him. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah. I agree that it still is something that they can use, and I think that Mason can have value to another team that wants to pair him as the power guy with the speed guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's happening around the league with Thunder and Lightning. So that's possible. But with the running back class this deep, it's going to be hard if they want to trade Mason. A lot of teams are going to say we'd rather draft one.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult. And I think that as a result, Mason stays with the Niners, but they do re-sign him.
And, Kyle has had a history of drafting running backs. Obviously, he drafted Elijah Mitchell. He drafted Trey Sermon. Some of these guys, what's his name? Price. I was on calling Price Jackson Davis. That's not it. That's
TDP.
Trey Sex. Yeah. They drafted him. And some of these guys didn't really work out, but not every running back does work out. But I agree with you. I do think that they're going to take a running back somewhere in this draft because they need to kind of deepen that. And plus, I don't think Elijah Mitchell's going to come back. It wouldn't surprise me if they brought him back, but I don't think you can go McCaffrey, Mitchell, and Mason again. I think you could bring back Mason or you can bring back Mitchell, but either way, you're going to be drafting somebody. I don't think both come back.
I think they let Mitchell go.
Yeah, and he was good when we had him. A lot of injuries, but he was serviceable. I mean, he scored that big touchdown against the Lions when McCaffrey had to come out. So much love to Elijah Mitchell. So let me ask you about this. There was this rumor that was rolling around, and at first I got excited because I was just like, "Oh, hey, this is great!" But this is not Major League Baseball. Teams can't just absorb someone's contract like they can in Major League Baseball, where it's like, "Hey, I'll trade you this guy, and I'll take his entire contract." Like, oh, hey, thanks. If they could do that in the NFL, God, if only. Could you imagine how many players would be moving around? But what am I talking about? I'm talking about this right here, which is Brandon Aiyuk. This comes from Diana Rossini saying that some teams have been poking around to see if the 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk is available via trade. However, there are no indications the team is willing to move on from Brandon Aiyuk. I don't believe this is much of anything. When you look at the numbers, if they were to move him this offseason, they could incur up to like $40+ million in dead cap space. Unless there's something going on that we don't know and they're dying to get rid of this guy, I don't see a trade for Brandon Aiyuk happening this offseason. What do you think, Tom? And while Tom thinks hard about that, as his internet is lagging a bit, I just don't see them trying to.
Sorry, I don't see it. No.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, $41 million dead cap hit if they traded him. That's not going to happen. That wipes out their free agency budget.
Yeah.
So their team's poking around. They can say we're interested, but because they want to get Brandon Aiyuk on the cheap.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh is kicking the tires. I would imagine a few other teams, but the Niners literally can't afford to do it because it would wipe out their cap.
Well, and you can't get rid of Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel in the same offseason. Right. And Kyle Shanahan also mentioned that in his press conference. I was reading that nothing really major. All he said was we're honoring Deebo's request to be traded. Which at this point, wherever the fuck he goes, I don't care. As long as it's not in the NFC West. One team that I could see him going to would be a team like the Washington Redskins, because they're looking for a dynamic playmaker alongside Jaden Daniels. And we heard yesterday that Jonathan Allen wants to be traded, and they're trying to work a trade for him. Do you think that this could possibly lead to something where Deebo Samuel packaged with a draft pick or so could go for Jonathan Allen?
I think it's possible, but it's difficult to work out because you have to manage all the contracts and the cap hits, etc. But if you can deal with all the financials of trading veterans for each other and then coming up with something that makes sense for both teams, the Niners and the Commanders, then you can get it done. But that's a big hurdle to clear, is to make all that work. In theory, because both teams are looking to move on, both players are looking to move on. And you've got a Washington team where it's Adam Peters is the GM, familiar with Deebo. So I can see where they can be interested.
Yeah.
But making it work is easier said than done.
No, and I agree. I think so, but I mean, I think out of all the teams that are out there, I would imagine the Commanders. Sorry, Taryn, I call them the Redskins still. The Commanders, the Dolphins, Broncos. These are teams that could be interested in Debo's service, along with the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I don't see why they would want him, but whatever. I think at this point, the Niners are so focused on getting something in return and not letting him just walk. Yes, they save some money if they cut him post June 1st, but I think for the Niners, they're like, hey, look, we're trying to make a Super Bowl run. Yeah, we could save $5 to $6 million, but I'd rather get a player in return or a draft pick in return so that we can make up for his loss. One of the guys that I think would fit the mold of what he does as a receiver would be a guy like Davante Adams. Now, obviously, the Jets would have to cut him. There's been also rumors that Aaron Rodgers says that if he gets cut, he's going to go to the Rams and bring Davante Adams with him. I don't know what he's talking about, if that's even true. But I could see Davante Adams coming to the Niners on like a 1 year, 2 year deal, a short-term deal to try and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I think that on the field as a receiver, he kind of matches what Deebo Samuel kind of does. He's a big receiver. They're similar size, similar height. But so I could see them going with someone like Davante Adams if he wants to come over here on a short-term deal. Do you think Davante Adams would be a good acquisition for the Niners?
I think he would, and I think he'd be interested in coming home. He's from East Palo Alto, but my guess is that he's going to go to the Chargers. That's the team he's been talking up lately, and it makes sense. They've got the cap room, and they have a need. And if you're Davante Adams, would you rather be playing with Justin Herbert or Brock Purdy? His game is more suited to what Herbert can do.
Well,
and
that's
he can probably get more money there. So I think that the chances of the Niners getting Adams are low. The fit for Adams on the Niners is a good one, but it's just, how do you compete in the marketplace when the Chargers can offer more money, a better quarterback, and a better situation?
Yeah. And not to mention, Brock Purdy still isn't even signed yet. That's why, I keep saying that I think they want to get this done before March 13th. That's when the new NFL year starts. You can start negotiating and signing free agents. And I think that you want to get Brock Purdy's contract done by then, because then you know exactly how much you're working with here. Like you were saying, they could wait to see if if Darnold and those guys where they land. But that could be one of the mindsets that, hey, look, if we get his contract done by March 12th, then we know exactly how much we're looking to spend to get these other guys. And plus, to me, it sends a better message to, let's say, a guy like T. Higgins, when you're saying, hey, look, we already signed our quarterback. He's here for the long haul. We want you to compliment him. Like, okay, cool. If you're going to sign a guy like T. Higgins and he goes, well, what's going on with Brock Purdy? Well, we're working on that. We're making good progress. And the Chargers over here saying, hey, we got Justin Herbert. We're ready to rock. Let's go. He's like, okay, let's go San Diego. Yeah. So it gives you a little bit of leverage, I think. But I wanted to ask you, there was some news that came out yesterday that was a little shocking. Brian Griese is officially out and has been let go by the Niners. Now, we know that this is a personal decision that he made to spend more time with his family. Yeah. Do you think this impacts Brock Purdy? Because, this was his quarterback coach.
I think it can hurt Brock a little bit just in the lack of continuity where you have to change to a new coach. But you're still working in the same system. You're still playing for Kyle. He still has his own progression in the system and knowing it better. So I don't think it's going to be a big issue, but it is an adjustment for Brock. For Griese, apparently he tried coaching and said, no, this isn't for me. So it's not an issue of the Niners saying, we don't appreciate your performance, we're going to let you go. It was Griese's call to say that, no, I don't really want to be a coach. And I don't know if that then means he goes to announcing or if he just spends time with his family, but, more power to him. Yeah. But he came into this where it was an experiment in the first place. It's just, give this a try, see if you like it. He gave it a try and he doesn't. And so you just respect that decision, move on.
Well, what's crazy too is that, we heard news that during the 2023 draft, if I haven't got that right, 22 maybe. Anyway, the year that Brock was drafted, that he actually had Brock Purdy listed as his number one quarterback out of the entire draft class. And probably
he was key to getting Brock. Yeah.
Yeah.
The the main thing was Steve Slowick, the area scout, that said this is the guy. But then Greasy backed that up and pounded the table and said, this is who I want. And I think that Kyle and John both respected that coming from Greasy, that he's got a good eye. And he did. He made the right call.
Absolutely. We're talking with Tom Jensen of SI, covers the Niners for Sports Illustrated. Some other news that came out yesterday was this right here, which is basically the Niners are officially promoting Clay Kubiak as their offensive coordinator. I guess they couldn't just say it. They had to actually go through the process, which they did. And they also announced that Mick Lombardi, no relation to David Lombardi, will replace Brian Greasy as the quarterback's coach. I don't know much about Lombardi. I saw a rap sheet of his, and I know he's been around for a lot of different organizations, but we'll see how this works out. I'm a little worried, though, about not having Greasy there as Brock's quarterback coach, because, I mean, I feel like he's kind of leaned on him with his experience and, to get through some of these tougher times, but now he's going to have to lean on Mick Lombardi, and we'll see how that kind of plays itself out. And we know that Clay Kubiak has done a lot of the play calling during preseason and has essentially had this job the entire time, just not officially. Do you see this do you see Clay Kubiak being promoted as them making changes to their offense, or do you think it's going to be, frankly, business as usual?
I think it'll be business as usual for the most part, but it's going to depend to an extent on what they do in the draft.
Yeah.
So if they want to move on from Kyle Juszczyk, for example, how do you do that? Is that going to be drafting somebody like Cam Scatterbo to replace him? Or is it drafting Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Elijah Arroyo, Mason Taylor, one of the top tight ends in the draft, and then you use 12 personnel and go with 2 tight ends? I think that's more likely. And so that can be an adjustment for the offenses. All right, we're no longer going to do this with Juszczyk. We're going to have a tight end and try to use him as a blocker and receiver the way we do with Kittle. I think that's the more likely route. And you've got the talent in this draft, at least with those top 4 players at tight end, that could really fill in that role and do it very well.
No, definitely. And then they also announced, too, a full list of all the coaching changes and kind of where they lie now and their new titles in 2025. Ronald Blair, I did not know he was a part of their coaching staff. He's going to be their special teams quality control. I thought if Blair and DJ Jones and those guys didn't get injured during that Super Bowl run in 2019, I think they would have easily won that. I actually feel like it would have been
Possibly.
similar. I feel like it would have been similar to what we saw from the Eagles, because they were just so deep at defensive line. The Eagles were, and I think those guys would have helped with that. But obviously, we see that Gus Bradley's on there. Chris Forrester also got promoted to assistant head coach / offensive line coach, which I would imagine is some kind of a pay increase, possibly. Are there any names on here that kind of stick out to you as surprises?
Not really. I like that I see some familiar names in like Ronald Blair, Gus Bradley. You're getting somebody that's been in the league a long time that can be a good sounding board for Saleh. Forster getting a promotion, okay, then give him better players.
Yeah, stop having to go out there and
the offensive line.
Yeah, I don't want to hear him defend Jake Brendel anymore. Can we just move on from Jake Brendel, please?
Exactly. So a lot of this is just it's folks that have earned it. Forster gets a bump, and I think that he's proven that he's worthy of that. Clay Kubiak getting the offensive coordinator. The concern, though, is that title bump makes him more likely to be looked at next year.
Yeah,
for other clubs. Mick Lombardi, we'll just have to see. He's going to have to prove himself. But you've got somebody that's solid to work with in Brock Purdy. I think the main thing with Purdy is you need to work on his decision making. That he needs to be better in protecting the ball more. When he gets flushed out, he'll throw the ball into traffic, and you can't do that. Hopefully Lombardi can work with him on that. And I think that Brock is well aware that that's a concern, and he needs to work on that.
In this past season, too, that became a very apparent issue with Brock. But I think that solidifying his receiving core is going to help him a lot. And doing that early on, I think would make a big difference. Last season, we saw that missing Brandon Aiyuk, or lack thereof. I mean, when he was there, he wasn't the same. But at the same time, they were dealing with injuries with Deebo Samuel, with George Kittle. Not having his full array of weapons, we saw him go through some tough progressions and making some bad decisions with the football, most of which some would argue that because of those decision-making mistakes, that going for a contract of 50 to 55 million to 60 million, shouldn't even be had. But I think that when you look at the market value for quarterbacks, I think that's kind of where he falls in. I was looking at over the cap, and one of the things that I noticed was, right off the bat, they have top contracts for certain positions for quarterback, receiver, offensive line, edge rusher, and defensive back. And after Purdy's contract, more than likely, they're going to have players in those top contract categories for quarterback, receiver, and offensive line, and for edge rusher. Because you got Nick Bosa, you have Trent Williams, you have Brandon Aiyuk getting paid $30 million a year. And he's not even going to be around probably until, I don't know, mid-season sometime, week 8, week 9.
Right.
And then, of course, you look at the quarterbacks that are on here. Jared Goff getting paid $53 million, his APY. Herbert, $52 million. I would imagine that Brock is going to fall somewhere in there at $50 to $55 million. And he'll be on this list. I mean, Jalen Hurts getting $51 million. So.
Right.
So I think they'll definitely be he'll be on this list, and they got to watch their spending as well, because I mean they have top contracts in all these key positions, so that could play against them as they move on into free agency. We'll see what Tom says. There he goes. He's back. Oh, maybe not.
Yeah. Sorry about that. My apologies, Dre. I'm having connection issues today. I would think that they're going to have to be careful of just not going too far on Brock's contract. My guess was 5 years, 285. That'd be putting it at like 57 million.
Yeah.
So somewhere in that ballpark, I would need 55 to 58, somewhere like that. But it depends. I think that they're waiting to see, especially what Stafford gets, and that's going to calibrate what they can then offer Brock. And I don't think there's that big a concern of we need to know how much exactly we're spending on Brock. They can ballpark that. They can say 13 to 16 million for Brock this year on this year's cap, and then we can work forward in terms of what else we've got to spend. My guess, and then this is based on conversations with Jason Hurley, the cap guru of 49erscap.com. He says 25 to 30 million that they'll have to spend on outside free agents.
Well,
that's the budget.
There's all this talk about, Stafford possibly going to the Raiders, and then Aaron Rodgers going to the Rams. I don't know if the Rams want to invest in Aaron Rodgers, even for 1 or 2 seasons. I mean, I wouldn't either. And they even made a comment saying, hey, we feel comfortable going with Jimmy Garoppolo this next season. I thought, oh my God, are you serious? Don't say it out loud. No, calm down. Calm down.
And everybody knows they're lying. They want Jimmy to be engaged and ready to go in case, but they don't have a death wish. We're going to start Jimmy Garoppolo. No, you're not.
He'll be your week 1 starter. We know
better than that. So do you. Please, come on.
And Stafford wants top dollar. I mean, he wants a big contract. So, look, do I think Purdy should make as much as Matthew Stafford? No, because I mean he hasn't won the Super Bowl. He doesn't have the career as Stafford, and we know even at this age, Stafford is still, in my opinion, a superior quarterback to Brock Purdy. If Stafford was younger, I want the Niners to go after this guy, but at his age, I just think that's the wrong decision. So
apparently what Stafford wants is 2 years, $100 million.
Yeah.
And so he would set it at 50. And if that's the case, then I think the Niners are saying, okay, cool. Now we can make an offer to Brock that we think is representative of his market value. And it would come in, 52 to 58, somewhere in there. And they would, rationalize it because Brock is younger and Stafford is getting up there, that we can pay Brock a little bit more. But if Stafford comes in at 50, then I think that eliminates Brock at 60. You take him down a little bit further.
No, the fact that he's younger does up the value. So you start at 50 for Stafford, then you can say, okay, we'll go to 52 or 53 because you're younger, and you have much more longevity. And still, I think Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. I mean, he's made really good decisions. Does he have the rocket arm? No, but he's done a lot of good things that you want in a franchise quarterback. He can extend plays. His first full season, I mean, he was doing things that were blowing everyone's mind. Like, well, did he really just do that? Just incredible plays. So I think he's definitely worth the contract. But let me ask you this. There is some rumors about the Niners and the Packers being interested in Zach Bond. Now, I think that if the Niners were to, let's say, go after this guy and sign a Zach Bond, who really was almost a nobody, just a role player until last season when he had a really breakout year against with the Eagles that was already stacked. Oren Burks had a good year too, which was like, okay, where was that during the Super Bowl last year? But to me, if you go after a guy like Zach Bond, then Dre Greenlaw's gone. There's no way that you're going to be able to sign Greenlaw. Do you think that it'd be smarter for the Niners to either draft, sign Zach Bond, or bring back Dre Greenlaw? Which one would you want to do?
I would want none of the above. I would want to sign Nick Bolton.
Nick Bolton from the Chiefs
instead of Bond. Yeah, and he's a free agent and younger and better, in my opinion, and a better fit. But Bond succeeded playing for Vic Fangio, so the Niners know that he's been well coached now and can fit in their system. With Dre, it's a question of what does he really want? And apparently, according to some reports, he wants to be linebacker 1, which means I want my money. And he also wants a claim. And he can't really get that playing with Fred Warner.
No.
Dre has been one of the best linebackers in the league and hasn't been recognized as such because he's playing with Fred. So I think that he's going to leave because he wants both. He wants the money and the acclaim. He can't get the acclaim here. That's already been proven. So I think he moves on. And then the Niners say, okay, we need to get an impact linebacker. We can't wait for a draft pick. The gestation period for a linebacker now is like 3 years. You draft a guy even first, second round, he's really not an impact linebacker until his third season in the NFL. Niners can't have that kind of time. So they're going to have to invest in free agency at linebacker, in my opinion, because Dre's going to leave. And so they're going to look at, okay, who? And I think that my preference would be Bolton, but apparently they're looking at Bond. So we'll see how that plays out.
Well, and Bond might actually be a cheaper option in the sense that he hasn't had a illustrious career. This was his first breakout year.
It's 1 year. Right.
Yeah.
And PFF has him at 13-3. They've got Bolton at 15. I think the extra money for Bolton would be worth it. I think Bolton has proven that he's a great player, that he's an impact player, and that he would fit this defense. So that I would be willing to spend the additional money, but that's me. What are the Niners willing to do? Clearly they're after Bond. There's two players that they've been linked to. That's DJ Reed, the Jets cornerback, and Zach Bond. And what that doesn't then include is who the Niner fans want most, which is Drew Dalman. So it tells me that Dalman is not in the cards for this team. They're not looking.
I hope he is, though. I mean, they really need an upgrade at center, especially someone like Drew Dalman.
They do. Sure they do. You could make the logical argument that Dalman makes the most sense. He should be at the top of your list.
Yeah.
But he's not. We haven't heard anything linking the Niners to Dalman other than Dalman's personal history. There's nothing to say that the Niners have even kicked the tires on Dalman or looked at him. So, putting 2 and 2 together, the players the Niners have looked at are Reed and Bond, not Dalman. And that tells me they're not going to go after Dalman. NFL.com reported a week or two ago that apparently Dalman's going to be in bidding war because there's so many teams that need an interior lineman and so few centers available that he's going to push the price up just out of supply and demand. They're saying that he might end up getting $20 million per. That sounds a little rich to me, but I think it could be around 15. And Dalman at 15 prices the Niners out.
Yeah, no, it really would. I mean, if you went after a guy like Drew Dalman, that would eat up a lot of the money that you're looking to spend on free agents.
Yeah.
But it's also a position that they really need to improve on because, I mean, I don't think Jake Brendel's going to get better this next season. I think he just can continue to play the way he's been playing, if not get worse. So they have a big pickle to figure out what they're going to do at the center position. I don't think it's in the draft. It could possibly be, but usually
No.
drafting centers, it takes a few years to develop them because they're essentially the quarterback of the offensive line. And so, look,
You have
we
to
heard
learn
about
the system and the protection calls and all that.
yeah,
So I
that's a
think that
lot.
what they're going to do is end of the season last year, they signed a 2-year deal with Matt Hennessy, the center,
Yeah.
who's a guy that they wanted to draft in 2020. I think he's the likely option. It's just that the fans want the gold-plated option. I want Drew Dahlman. I want Gray Zabel. And Kyle is saying, no, I went to the Dollar Tree and I got Matt Hennessy. That's what I think is going to happen here.
But that's what he
is that
normally
you're gonna have
does.
Hennessy. Yeah, and that's Kyle's MO. And so it's Hennessy, and then they just signed Ben Barch. He can play center too, so we could back up there. But I think Hennessy, if I had to guess right now, who's going to be the Niners starting center next year? Hennessy. Not what the Niners fans want to hear, but
no,
probably
exactly
what goes down.
But I think when it comes to left guard, I think it's going to be between Spencer Burford and Ben Barch. I think those two are going to battle it out. Yeah, and I think Barch will probably win, but we'll see.
And a draft pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they draft an offensive lineman, the best position in this draft is guard.
Yeah. I mean, right tackle, you still got Colton McKivitz. Is he the worst ever? No. Is he the best ever? No. He had a fairly good. No, I shouldn't for that. He had an okay season last season. He failed upwards because he didn't fail as hard as everyone expected him to fail. So it was like, oh, okay, well, maybe we roll with that for one more year. I don't know. They may or may not. But real quick, as we round up the show or this segment, let's talk about the NFL Combine. We know that the Combine's running right now. They're doing all the interviews. They talked to the new Jaguars GM who looks like he's 12. I was like, who is this guy? But we know that for sure the Niners have met with Walter Nolan, Shamir Turner, James Pierce Jr., and Nick Scorton at the Combine. So they've been meeting with a lot of defensive linemen. I would love Walter Nolan to be their number 11 pick.
He's my pick.
Do you think the Niners are going to stick with number 11 pick, or do you think they'll trade back or trade up? Do you think they'll make a move at the draft?
I think they'll stay put. I think they'll get PTSD on trading up. There's been some talk of trade up to get Mason Graham. He's the sure thing. Yeah, but he's the 4th or 5th pick. To go from 11 to 5 is going to take a lot of capital. I don't think they're willing to do that. So they go to 11, and it's okay. Walter Nolan is probably on the board. I think he should be the pick, but whether they agree on that, we'll see. The conventional wisdom and most of the rumor talk has been they are going to look at defensive line and a weapon. They are not looking at offensive linemen at 11. And that makes sense because a lot of these guys are guards, not tackles. Will Campbell, Membu, Banks, they're guards. You don't take a guard at 11. And so I think that that's where it's going to fall, is that they're going to look at Nolan, probably Shamar Stewart from A&M, and James Pierce, the edge from Tennessee, and also who's there as a weapon that Kyle likes. Ashton Genty could be there. We'll see. There's been talk of Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end, Colston Loveland, the Michigan tight end, Luther Burden, the wide receiver. All those guys would be in play, but I think that the logical pick for them that makes the most sense in terms of need and BPA would be Nolan. But
yeah,
I don't always get what I want. So we'll see what they do. But he's the one that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, you need to bolster up your interior defensive line. I think he fits the bill for that. You put him in between Collins and Bosa. I think that'd be really good. But you have the whole draft to really select more and more defensive linemen, which I think it's going to be a heavy defensive lineman draft for the Niners. Another quick tidbit was that early scouting combine buzz was that the 49ers have been linked to free agent safeties such as Justin Reed. Obviously, he's the younger brother of Eric Reed, who used to play here a long time ago. Do you think this would be a viable option at safety? And really, this could also be just them putting this out there to tell Jair Brown, you better step it up. Because we're looking at possibly
it's putting pressure on him. Yeah, is that you need to step up your game. Had a lot of development in his rookie year, and then he fell way back in his second.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Niners are expecting him to be a starter, but they want him to be ready to start in case injury hits. But yeah, it's, looking at Reed makes sense. The guy that I like is Cam Bynum of Minnesota. He led the league in solo tackles by a safety last year, or 23. This year he had 3 picks. I think he'd be a great free safety for them. But that's $15 million per. So again, it's which secondary player do they take? They can't take all 3. They can't say, okay, we're going to take DJ Reed, Justin Reed, and Zach Bond. They don't have the money for that.
They don't. And really, when you look at their the safety positions, they don't have a lot of speed out there as well. I mean, Malik Mustafa is not the fastest safety. Neither is Jair Brown. So speed is something that they need to look at for a deep threat. We saw many times last season, especially against Justin Jefferson, they go vertical against the Niners because they did not have a lot of speed in their secondary at corner or at safety. And that became kind of a problem for the Niners. And plus their pass rush was not where it needed to be at. So the other teams had plenty of time to 5-step drop. And then
there's a lot of holes. Yeah.
There's a lot of
holes that can be exploited on this defense. They've got a lot of work to do in the draft and free agency on D. And because you have the last 7 games of the year, there were 6 backs that went over 100 yards, and your defensive tackles had 1 sack.
It's not good.
Nobody had more than 1 sack at DT. So they've got that to work on, plus a linebacker to replace Greenlaw, plus an impact-free safety. This draft has impact-free safeties. You've got Malachi Starks in Georgia. You've got Nick Emmanwori from South Carolina. And you got Andrew Makuba, who can really go. He's like 4.33, who's got a lot of speed, but also has a 14% missed tackle rate. So you kind of have to balance things out. I think Emmanwori is going to be one of the stars of the combine. He's just an incredible athlete. So you have the draft providing a safety. I think that's probably what they'll end up doing. But there is talk that they're at least looking at Reed, and I hope that they're looking at Bynum. Morg from the Raiders is also getting up some talk. So they can do that, but they have to choose. It's, what do you think the draft provides best, DB or safety? To me, where they would want to pick safety, because that would be 3rd round. That's where it makes sense. If you had to go DB, you have to take him earlier. You would need to take Will Johnson at 11, or you would need to take a look at Jahdae Barron from Texas. So my guess is that safety makes more sense in the draft because it fits with the overall plan for the draft, where they don't want to take a safety until the 3rd.
Well, and when we talked earlier about Walter Nolan, I just saw this on X that from Matt Mayoko that Walter Nolan said that he met with the Niners. He grew up a fan of the Niners, especially like Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. And having said that, I'm like, dude, just please draft this guy, please. But you never know. You never know.
You just passed the test. Good answer, Walter.
Yeah,
exactly right.
But if a guy like Genty is available, I can see Kyle saying, "Let's go with that guy." He's more explosive on offense. But
he could. The issue with Genty is fumbles, and that's why I think Kyle would be more interested in Henderson, because Henderson doesn't give the ball. Part of the reason that Kyle melted Elijah Mitchell into the ground and then the glue factory is he never fumbled. Kyle values that to the skies. So I think that Kyle is really going to want Trevion Henderson. Problem is that right now he's being mocked in the mid-20s. So if you wanted Trevion, you would have to deal down from 11 to the 20s. And I don't know if the Niners would want to go drop that far. But that would be what I would expect of Kyle, is that if you put a gun to Kyle's head and said, which running back do you want most? He would say Trevion over Genty.
Probably. And the last thing I'm going to ask you real quick, this is courtesy of BetUS, is basically who should they target for agency as a backup quarterback? You got guys like Mac Jones. Don't look at Jimmy Garoppolo. Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew. Do you think any of these guys fit the bill as a backup for Brock Purdy?
Brissett, maybe.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider the others. Word is that they're talking.
When Tom comes back, he'll let us know his thoughts on who they were targeting. We have heard reports that they have been targeting guys like Joe Flacco, which I think would be a great acquisition as a backup quarterback. Some even said Sam Darnold, but I'm pretty sure he's going to get a starting job somewhere else, even though he played horribly in the playoffs and towards the end of the season as well. They kind of figured him out, defenses did. So I'm not sure how viable he is moving forward as your starting quarterback, depending on what team you are. But out of these names here, yeah, I think Jacoby Brissett would be the best option out of these four. I don't want to see Jimmy Garoppolo. Look, I have nothing against Jimmy Garoppolo, but I wouldn't bring him back. Let's put it that way. And then Gardner Minshew is the forever backup quarterback, so he wouldn't be too bad. But no on Mac Jones. He's too stationary. Yeah, he had a good year his rookie year, but I don't think he's a guy that you invest in as your backup quarterback. Just not my cup of tea, if you ask me. Well, I don't know if Tom's going to make it back or not, but if he does, I want to say, I'm going to tell you right now, Tom, thank you so much for coming on here. I know you're speechless right now. All those guys suck. Give me Flacco. It's 2 C's, not 1, but I know what you mean. But yeah, I want Flacco. But you can follow Tom over at on X at NinerCast, and he'll be starting his own. He's working on his own channel on YouTube, which is called NinerCast. But you can follow Tom also because he covers Niners for SI over at Sports Illustrated, and of course, like I said, on X as well. Tom, if you can hear me, thank you so much for coming on. We'll do it again, and like always, thank you. And you provided another fire segment for the show. When we come back, he's gone. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the Golden State Warriors and the move that they made that has changed their season forever. You're listening to the Norcal Sports Report, episode 19 on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What the fever on the head?
Hey, yo, what's good, Georgia? It's your boy ACS, and if you love sports from the Peak State as much as I do, then Georgia Sports Central is your one-stop destination for down south sports, courtesy of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you a Yellow Jacket at heart, or do you bleed the red and black of the Bulldogs? Do you keep it true to Atlanta with Trae Young, Capella, and the boys? Do you rise up with the Dirty Birds on Sundays? Are you excited to see what the future holds for Michael Penix Jr., Bijan, and the rest of the Falcon squad? Do you live at 755 Battery Avenue? Do you rep for Albies, Acuna, and the rest of Braves country? If so, then let's get united every Wednesday for some Braves, Hawks, UGA, Georgia Tech, Atlanta Dream, Falcons, and more on Georgia Sports Central, only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter at any time. Be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernick, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Check out Adam Karnick on Chi-Town Weekly. It's a great show. Adam does a fantastic job here on IE Sports Radio. One of the best we got. Definitely check him out when he goes live. So now we're going to shift gears after talking with Tom Jensen of SI about the 49ers. Now we're going to shift gears over to the Golden State Warriors. Now, the Warriors have been on a freaking tear. They're on a 4-game winning streak. The Warriors are streaking right now ever since they got Jimmy Butler. Now, why do I say that? Well, Jimmy Butler, since they've acquired Jimmy Butler, they're 6-1. They're 6th in offense, 2nd in defense, 3rd in net rating, while on the other hand, the Miami Heat are 1-6 since making this trade and getting Andrew Wiggins. The Heat are 29th in offense, 18th in defense, and 27th in net rating since the trade. Getting Jimmy Butler has been a huge impact on the Golden State Warriors and has helped them improve to the number 8 seed in the Western Conference. Now, we know that the Warriors are targeting the number 6 seed because they want to get out of the play-in round. The way they're playing right now, I don't see why they can't get there. They're playing extremely smart, fundamental basketball. When you look at the Golden State Warriors, you got guys like Jimmy Butler, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Brandon Pajemski, even GP2, all really high IQ NBA players. And what does that do for you? It allows you to move the ball much better. Set screens, set picks, just understanding where everyone needs to be at. And it has made them a much more formidable team as they move towards that number 6 spot. Right now, they're in the 8th seed. I think they're going to actually get to that 6th spot. And we'll take a look at the standings in just a minute. But let's look at last night's game. The Golden State Warriors absolutely destroyed the Charlotte Hornets, who are 14-43. Not a very good team. And they beat them 128-92. Golden State improves to 31-27 and captures the 8th seed in the West. I'm loving everything I'm seeing from Golden State. Ever since they got Jimmy Butler, he's made such an enormous difference on this team. It's unbelievable what he's done. But let's take a look at some of the stats. Why don't we? So last night, Stephen Curry, he had 15 points. That's it. That's all he had was 15 points, and they destroyed them. But they got a lot of contributions from the bench as well because, let's face it, they're out LaMelo Ball. Yusuf Nurkic didn't even play. So they're just not a very effective team right now, which is the Charlotte Hornets. But the Warriors played a good game. Butler had 6 points. Stephen Curry had 15 points. Curry didn't even play the fourth quarter, which is amazing. This is the second game in a row where he hasn't even played in the third quarter. The fourth quarter. So that's great for Steph to get that kind of rest. Draymond Green had 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. So he really filled up the stat line. He also had 2 blocks and 3 steals. So Draymond was balling it up. Jimmy Butler, he had 6 points, but he also had 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 steal. Moses Moody chipped in with 13 of his own. Buddy Hield had 16 points. Kevin Knox, the second. They brought him up from the G League. former number 9 pick in the NBA draft. He had 12 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Along with GP2, Gary Payton II had 14 points. The Warriors are playing a dominant form of basketball. They're relying on their defense and scoring as well. They're doing it on both ends, which is just incredible to see. And we've seen that when they bring in a guy like Jimmy Butler, he has that sort of Andre Iguodala effect on them, where he slows things down. He takes control of the offense. He sets the offense. He does a lot of things that they weren't able to do. He's also getting to the line. It's incredible. His first 4 games, he was averaging 10 free throws a game. And so the impact that he's made on the Golden State Warriors is astronomical. Now, when we look at the previous game, when they went against the Dallas Mavericks, they absolutely crushed them, 126-102. And in that game, it saw more scoring. Jimmy Butler had 18 points. Moses Moody chipped in with 14 points. Curry had 30. Podziemski had 17. And again, Green had 13 points. Podziemski also had 13 rebounds. 13 rebounds for a guard? That's amazing. And the Warriors are playing it on both ends. Defense, offense. They're doing everything right, and they're sharing the ball, which is helping them get to that next level. And I'm loving every minute of it. PJ Washington did the night-night taunt when the Mavs beat the Warriors a few weeks ago. Well, Steph Curry got him back so bad that when Warrior fans started trolling PJ Washington on X, he deleted his account because it was just too much. So watch what you say. Yeah, Taryn. Belt to butt. I agree. There it is. Belt to butt. I agree. They whooped their ass. They were looking for vengeance that night. Definitely. So when we look at the overall NBA conference standings, right? Who's ahead of the Warriors right now? The Minnesota Timberwolves. Yes, they have Anthony Edwards. They're a really good team. But they're 36. I'm sorry. They're 32-27. We're 31-27. In the last 10 games, we're 7-3. So we have a great shot of catching up to them. Then you got the Clippers. 31-26. That's a game and a half difference. Then you got Houston, which you already smoked. So for me, it's no question that I think they will get into the 6th seed. This is my prediction, is that I think they get all the way up to the 4th seed. Because I think right now they are better than the Clippers, and they are better than the Houston Rockets. I also think fundamentally they're better than the LA Lakers. Lakers did a good job destroying the Nuggets the other night, but I don't think we get into that top 3. But I do see them getting into the top 5. Sorry. Because right now your top 4 is Lakers, Denver, Memphis, OKC. I don't see them reaching all the way up into there. But I think, top 5, yes, I do. I see them overtaking the Houston Rockets. I think they're a deeper team. They're a more experienced team. While the Rockets are a young team, unproven, and may falter towards the end of the season trying to win games. We also know the Warriors have the second easiest schedule in the Western Conference. And hey, that's an advantage that I think the Warriors should take advantage of. I mean, why wouldn't you at this point? You need to take advantage of every opportunity you have. So that's definitely something that they're going to have to take advantage of. And when we look at the upcoming schedule for the Warriors, they play tomorrow night in Orlando, a team that is not very good. A team that surprisingly is in first place in their division, which is not saying much because first place is 29-31. But they take them on Thursday, which I think they'll get the win there. And also marks the return of Jonathan Kuminga to the lineup. Kuminga has already had multiple scrimmages with Jimmy Butler on the team. And I think that when Kuminga comes back, he's going to add yet another element they haven't had yet. He's a slasher. He can shoot the 3-ball. But his game is very similar to Jimmy Butler. And I think Jimmy's going to teach him a lot about how to play that position, how to be in that same role that he's in. I don't see him leaving in free agency either. I think they're going to resign him because, I mean, why not? But then when you look at the rest of the schedule, so yes, you have Orlando Magic tomorrow night. Then on Saturday, the 1st, they have Philly, who's been on a tailspin. So we can win that game. You got the Hornets, who we already know we're going to destroy them. You got the Knicks, who, yes, I believe we're going to beat them as well. You got Brooklyn, Detroit, Portland, Sacramento, New York. That is a stretch of 8 games. Well, actually, that's a stretch of 9 games that are winnable games for the Golden State Warriors. That'll only increase and raise their stock in terms of the Western Conference standings. Now, where I think it's going to be tough is come March 17th. That's where things get a little more juicier. Because then you have to go to Denver and take on the Nuggets. That's going to be a good barometer. And it's a back-to-back. You have the Nuggets, and the following day you have the Milwaukee Bucks, who are likely going to have Giannis back by then, or hopefully. So we'll see how they manage those 2 back-to-back tough teams. Then you got Toronto, Atlanta, Miami, New Orleans, and San Antonio. These are all winnable games, especially based on how they're playing. I mean, we talked about with Jimmy Butler so far. They're 6-1, 6th in offense, 2nd in defense, 3rd in net rating. They're playing off the charts ever since they got Jimmy Butler. He has given them that extra flurry of confidence. We know Draymond Green made the comment that they're going to win the title this year. The way they're playing right now, I absolutely think they can. And I think they are a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams. Now you say, well, Nurkic or Jokic is going to be a problem when you go up against Denver. It is, but we still got guys like Trace Jackson-Davis, Quentin Post, obviously Draymond. But I think Post is going to be a big issue for the Nuggets because Post is going to live out in the perimeter, which is going to draw Jokic away from the hoop. That's something that he has to figure out how to do. I think they're playing without Franz Wagner, but Magic suck. They're going to beat them. I know they're in first place in their division, but I don't see them losing to the Magic. But that's just me. Taryn also writes, we'll see. Lakers have had the number of the Warriors this year, but now they don't have the big man. That's going to be a problem for them. And we know that, look, Luka is starting to play a lot better, but he doesn't play any defense. So, yes, there are some areas in which the Lakers, can score a lot of points, but I think defensively we're better than the LA Lakers. But that's just me. And you can call me a bit of a homer because I'm a huge Warriors fan, so call that what you will. But like I said, with Jimmy Butler, they've been in a completely different team. Now he's rounding more into shape as well, because we know that when he started the season, he was not in basketball shape. But now he's getting more and more in shape, and we're seeing the difference that he's making every single night. And I'm loving what I'm seeing from Jimmy Butler. Just really good stuff. His steals, his blocks, his defensive presence has completely changed the Warriors, and his playmaking ability. And not only that, but it's allowing Steph to rest on the bench longer because he has another guy out there controlling the offense and helping them score points. I love Andrew Wiggins, but that's what Andrew Wiggins couldn't do. He couldn't create for others. Didn't have that defensive prowess that Jimmy Butler has on a nightly basis. So this trade has been phenomenal for the Golden State Warriors. It's a trade and an outcome that the rest of the NBA is probably saying, are you fucking kidding me? We thought these guys were buried. We thought these guys were done. And now they're back. And they're in the 8th seed. And if you ask me, I think they're going to get all the way up to at least the 5th seed. I really do. A lot of teams are dealing with a lot of injuries. If they can stay healthy, they could be a team that can challenge for the 5th seed in the Western Conference, in my opinion. That's how good I think they are. And I can't wait to see what happens. The other guys in Northern California, which if you want to call it that, the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings lost. Actually, they won back on the 24th, and they beat the Charlotte Hornets, of course. 130-88, so they smashed them too. After they got smashed by the Warriors, the Kings played the Warriors and got annihilated 132-108 in a game where everybody was scoring. And then they kicked the crap out of the Hornets 130-88. But the Kings, I see them as a play-in team. I don't see them climbing the ladder and getting up into the 6th seed. I don't. Got a lot of talent. DeMar DeRozan, Valanciunas, Zach LaVine, Malik Monk. But I just don't see them pulling it together and getting to that higher seeding in the Western Conference. So I think they're going to be a play-in team, if you ask me. But we'll see how they do. We will see how they do in the Western Conference. Because, I mean, right now it's wide freaking open. And I think the Warriors see the advantage they have. They're hot. They're playing great. And they have a shot to really get into a higher seed, which I believe is going to be the 5th seed. Because they're playing great. And I want to see what they do tomorrow night against the Orlando Magic. And real quick, guys, San Jose Sharks. Sharks lost 2-1. They've lost 2 in a row to the Flames and to the Jets. They're sitting currently at 15-36-8, and they go up against the Canadiens tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time in Montreal. So we'll see how we'll see how the Sharks bounce back after 2 consecutive losses. Still been a tough year for the Sharks. Can they bounce back? We'll see. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank Tom Jensen for coming out and talking about the 49ers. I want to thank Larry B for putting on the show, putting on IE Sports Radio. If you haven't done so yet, go to IESportsRadio.com. Check out IE Sports Radio on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching on X, make sure you follow this account. May it be DreArea Sports or IE Sports Radio. Check out my personal personal channel, which is DreArea Sports on YouTube. NFL Combine is happening right now. The Niners, John Lynch is down there getting ready to scout these players to get their picks in for the draft coming up. This is going to be an exciting draft to see what the Niners do to improve this team because they need a lot of work. I think the draft is where they're going to find a lot of that. Stanford Beach Volleyball also beat number 1 USC this past weekend. Stanford is popping in NorCal. Remember that. Thank you, Taryn. Guys, you're listening to the Norcal Sports Report, episode 19 on IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.